right. Hello, everyone. Sorry for the slight delay. Excited to be here. My name is Rene Reinsberg. I'm one of the founders of Celo and president at the Celo Foundation. And I'm joined here today by an amazing group of operators who are all today are using Web3 and crypto to provide real value to real people across Africa. And, just going back a little bit in Celo's history, Mainnet has been live 3 years, and even before that, one of the first research trips, as the core team was starting to develop the protocol, was actually to Kenya, study M-Pesa, understand the local needs, and to this day, our belief is that the opportunity for this technology is massive in Africa, and we're seeing that in terms of the use cases. I think this is a really timely topic, especially given the debate that's happening right now around crypto regulation. And is this even useful? Like, does anyone even need this technology? And so, yeah, let's dive right in. Again, we have an amazing group of founders, operators here that are working in markets. And maybe we'll start with a quick round of introductions. Jessica, I see you up next to me. You want to go first? Maybe just quickly introduce your company and what you do, where you're based, and then we go from there.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Rene, for the introduction. So I'm Jessica, working on Impact Markets, which is what we called human empowerment protocol that provides financial services to underserved and unserved population all over the world, and essentially focusing as of right now on Africa and Latin America. So we initially started back in 2020 by providing unconditional basic income to vulnerable population in order to alleviate poverty. And we've been doing that by disbursing CUSD to this recipient that they receive in their wallets. And from doing that, in 3 years, we have reached so far 15,000 individuals located across 33 countries. But something a bit more exciting as well, we recently launched a fully on-chain uncollateralized microcredit that is directly available in the wallet, from application, assessment, to repayment, which is something that have never been done before for those type of population in a safe and affordable way. So yeah, really exciting. But in short, Impact Markets' aim is to provide financial tool to vulnerable population.
Thank you, Jessica. And Charles, up to you.
Great. Hi, everybody. Great to be here today. My name is Charles Nichols. I'm working on a project called Nuzo, and Nuzo is building an e-commerce marketplace for small and micro retailers across Africa. We've started in Kenya, the home of M-Pesa that Rene mentioned, but our goal is to be operating in most African countries. And when you look at kind of how retail operates across the continent, it's not the same as in North America or in Western Europe or even in Asia and Latin America. 98% of retail transactions occur face-to-face, and they typically occur through small and micro retailers. So we're talking about, a little shop on the corner of the street that you live on that's maybe doing $500 to $1,000 a month in sales. And this is how 98% of commerce happens. So at Nuzo, we're partnering with the entrepreneurs who own these businesses. We supply them with stock for their shops at attractive pricing. They earn cashback rewards in the form of the Nuzo loyalty token, which is called Nuzo Coin. They can pay with our wallet, with Nuzo Wallet, and then they can also accept deposits in cash and payments with Nuzo Wallet from their customers. So we're kind of creating this ecosystem where more value is staying within the community that we're serving, right? It's not going to Visa, it's not going to MasterCard. It's staying within this community, and that's powered by Celo on the back end, right? Because we have the security of the Celo network and the cost efficiency there. And one of the ancillary benefits of what we're offering is making it really easy to access stablecoins to protect wealth and purchasing power. And when you look across Africa, currency devaluation and inflation is a really massive hurdle for folks. And people lose between 10 and 20% of their wealth every year just by holding local fiat currency. And it's all good if you have a smartphone and you know how to use Binance and all that, and you can hold USDC or USDT. But for kind of the average person in Kenya, what they need is a physical touch point with crypto where they can hand over some cash and they can get value. And then when they want to exchange that value for basic goods like rice or like cooking oil, that's a really seamless experience. So that's the ecosystem that we're building. We launched last year. We're currently working with a few thousand retailers, mostly in Nairobi in Kenya, and we're going to be scaling that up over the years to come.
That's fantastic. Actually, what you mentioned about stable coins and just the opportunity for individuals to have that, to basically have that alternative is a great transition to Ruth. Ruth, tell us a little bit more about Bitmama and what you're building.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So apologies, I'm on the way. I lost my flight, so I'm trying to catch up the next one. So so Bitmama, we are a blockchain payment system, and we enable people perform cross-border transactions from one country to the other, and also enable on and off ramps across different regions, right? So we started a while back compared to Charles. We started back as 2 years ago right now. And we've been able to facilitate like millions of transactions across different places. And also, as Charles earlier mentioned, if you look at the African economy, basically is the whole currency devaluation happening from country to country. And maybe you just see it in different ratios. So like, Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, we are all having that serious, massive devaluation of currencies. So a lot of people have to depend on remittances. They have to depend on USDT or stable coins to save their currencies in, so that those currencies are not devalued. And that's a whole lot of challenge, right? But for us, we see the opportunity where crypto adoption is like the highest and is growing so much in Africa. So for us, it's an opportunity to use stablecoins as an infrastructure to be able to facilitate these payments across borders to various regions, making sure people get money to their loved ones, making sure people are able to make payments with virtual dollar cards. And we've been doing that, and we're pretty much looking to scale this across other African markets and also to the Western markets, especially for migrants sending money back home. So that's like what we do.
Fantastic. All right. So we covered already micropayments, credits, commerce, cross-border payments. And Serge, up to you. What's give us a little bit of background on what Dunia Pay is, and what markets you're serving or where you're based.
So, hey guys, my name is Serge. I'm one of the founder and also the CEO of Dunia. At Dunia, we first started by building a wallet and a savings account. We're focused on Francophone Africa. So basically the wallet and the savings account was built to help people save and also be able to transact with their money easily on blockchain. We've been trying a pivot recently. So basically now the company is focused on building a stablecoin-based payment infrastructure. We've been serving a lot of traditional businesses locally here looking for FX through stablecoin. So basically we would help them export their local currency through stablecoins. So yeah, that's a bit of a background on Dunia. We've been around since 2017 with our wallet, and now we're focused on our B2B.
That's great. You guys already partly answered some of my second question, which was a little bit more focused on why Web3, and some of you mentioned sort of the power of stable coins. So for my second question, I'll give you the option to either expand a little bit on, how is your product that you're building uniquely enabled by Web3 technology, or if you'd like, I'd love for you to share a story of a typical user, someone that you're serving, to make it really concrete for the people that are tuned in that may have less context about how the African markets work and how this is having an impact today. And I think, again, to the opening, there's even from this intro, right, it's clear there's already, you guys are already delivering value to real people. And I think that's such a strong counterpoint to a lot of the headlines we're seeing about crypto today. And either give us a little bit more of sort of what is the secret sauce that Web3 enables for you, or if you'd like a specific example of a user that you're serving. And maybe Jessica, starting again with you.
Sure. This answer is pretty easy and simple, I would say, because what we do really would not be possible without Web3. If you look at current situation, it's very difficult, or I would say nearly impossible, for people with low income, and especially women, to open a bank account or protect their saving, or even have access to loan or credits to start a small business, because either bank will require like credit history, regular income from very formal sector, and we know that women in this type of situation earn money from really informal sector, sufficient collateral, or assets or fees that are too high. So really, even a simple form of identification is something that we face in our community. People might not have just an ID. So how do you access the traditional system without any form of identification? So I would say that with blockchain we can overcome many of this limitation. There is no need for intermediaries. So banks can definitely be removed from the equation. And so we are able to allow people to, transfer, receive money using cryptocurrency without costly fees and without validation from traditional financial systems. So really with Web3, we are able to remove all those barriers. And I think one of the best examples that we have within impact market, and again, we'll focus on women because we know that they are the most affected by, financial exclusion, is we first started supporting one woman in the community in Uganda, end of 2020. This person was in the situation of abuse. Unfortunately, she was not able to leave her household because she has no financial independence. So how do you support your kids without any money, any bank account or any form of saving, right? And so she started receiving, the cash transfer that we provided, and she received that in her wallet. And she called this, this wallet a sort of bank account, a digital bank account. And she was extremely happy. She was able to save, send, and receive. So she saw the opportunity. She was able to leave the situation of abuse because she has independence over her own funds, started saving, creating a better future for herself. And then a few months ago, when we launched microcredits, she came back to us. She started, this small shop a few months ago, where she was able to sell, just like fruit and vegetable on the side of the road. And with this microcredit, she wanted to rent a specific place to be able to service a customer without, regardless of the weather, and increase her stock. So you have a situation where Web3 brought a woman who were from a situation of abuse to a self-made micro entrepreneur that can sustain herself, sustain her kids, and pay for their education. And I think this is very important, and that's what Web3 is not, when I say self-made as well, is not as impact market or self, we have not done anything, right? We have just provided the tools that she needs. And I think that's what Web3 is, just giving someone the power to empower them. So I would say, short answer, wouldn't be possible without Web3.
That's an incredible example. Charles, I'm looking at you. That's going to be hard to follow.
Yeah, that's tough. Thanks, Jessica. Let me take a crack though. There's a phrase: if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense, right? And when we're talking to micro merchants and retailers, they're trying to understand, why should we do something new? Why should we do something different, right? Especially in Kenya, you've got M-Pesa. There's a whole bunch of other stuff you've got to worry about. Maybe the power is not reliable. Maybe the roads have a problem. Something is coming up with a way to benefit from crypto, really a top 3 issue that you want to solve, or there are a myriad of other things. And what we found is that it really does, because it, in some cases, can double or triple the profitability of a micro merchant. So when you're thinking about these kind of small shops in Africa, for those of you who don't have a good visual, it's really like a kiosk, right? So maybe it's a couple feet by a couple feet, less than a meter by a meter. That's filled with stuff like sugar and tea and cooking oil and rice, etc., with just enough space for one person to kind of turn around in. It's it's a pretty small shop, right? And mostly these folks are selling commodity products, and that means that they're earning commodity profit margins. So they're earning between 2 and 5%, and it's really tough to make a business that way, to be able to support your family, pay for your rent, pay for all the other stuff, school fees, etc., that you have to pay for. And so any way to increase the margins for these businesses is hugely impactful. So what we found is, because we're able to buy directly from the factory and deliver to these aggregated pools of merchants, we can offer them about a 2% discount on a bag of flour or a bag of rice. And what that translates to is $1 or $2, which maybe for some folks on this call is not impactful, but it really makes a huge difference for these micro merchants. And then in addition to that, because we're layering the financial services component on top, it's not just about making the margins on selling the physical products. It's also about being a bank and delivering financial services to your customers. And so they make money on accepting deposits, processing payments, withdrawals, facilitating savings, all of these things that a bank would normally do. This micro retailer in this 1-by-1 meter kiosk is now able to offer those same financial services to their customers. Hugely beneficial for the customer, but also can double or triple the profit margins of these shops. And so as a result, we've seen merchants that were previously thinking about going out of business because they weren't able to sustain themselves, doubling down. And we've seen a lot of new entrepreneurs realizing that this is now a profitable way to start a business. And they're coming to us almost daily saying, hey, I've heard about Nuzo. I want to open a shop. I found a location. I've got the shelves there. I'm ready to go. I want to be a Nuzo store. And that type of economic dynamism that's being created around blockchain, I think, is hugely impactful, because, around the world, but particularly in Africa, small and micro entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of the economy, right? It's how we employ people. It's how we increase the standard of living. And anything we can do that kind of accelerates that is critical. And then maybe more on the kind of specific ways that we leverage Web3. Loyalty tokens, I think, are a fascinating concept, right? Because similar to your credit card, where you have your credit card points you can redeem for airfare, you're able to store value, and then you can hold that and you can redeem it when you need to. But the disadvantage of traditional loyalty programs is they're typically siloed, where the program gets to decide how and when you get to redeem your points, right? And as a result, there's loads of people around the world. It's about $100 billion worth of loyalty points are sitting in programs unspent, right? Because it's just siloed. It's difficult to get real value. When you take that away and you break down the walls by using Web3, you can enable people to swap between digital assets where they get the most value. So you can swap from a Nuzo coin to a Celo dollar. Eventually, you're going to be able to swap from Celo across different chains. So it's kind of this entry point into having digital assets, but that it also creates a way to have, networks of different ecosystems that can all kind of cross-communicate and can share value. So you don't have this zombie capital that kind of gets trapped. So that's kind of the one thing that I think is maybe unique to Nuzo and how we're applying these technologies. But then what pretty much everybody else on this call is doing as well is, enabling folks to make cross-border payments, in our case, to make domestic payments, and able to preserve savings with stable coins. So, there's so many cool ways to bring the promise of this technology down to kind of the everyday person who's buying basic commodities.
It's great. Yeah, Ruth and Serge, what are some examples of customer stories that can illustrate the value that you're bringing today to your markets?
Okay, Serge, I'm going to go first because it's ladies first, right? Yeah. So for us, right? So for example, in Nigeria, I'm just going to use Nigeria for example. We currently don't have our banks helping us facilitate cross-border transactions. And this is because we have dollar shortages, which was also as a result of currency inflation and a whole lot of other problems, right? Oil prices, etc. And also because of that dollar shortage, businesses mostly kind of import from China, India, Asia mainly. So what happens is these businesses no longer have access to those bank dollars at a certain kind of rate for them to be able to purchase those goods to come back to the market to sell. So in this case, where our typical customer journey lies is that we onboard them and move them from fiat to crypto, which in this case, stablecoin. And then from crypto, we have a corresponding partner in Asia or Hong Kong that's off-ramps to renminbi or pays the money to their supplier. Then we also have the instances where we partner with a couple of other partners. Let me say you want to send money from the US or Canada or UK or Europe, and you are able to send money back home to your loved ones. And when they send the money, we receive that fund in crypto, which is stable coins again. And then we are able to off-ramp to the recipient or the receiver, like across the various African nations where we serve. So in our case, yeah, I would say it's pretty much straightforward, pretty much simple, but that's how it basically happens.
It's awesome. Serge.
So in our case, for example, in Francophone Africa, it's not a dollar shortage, but there's a restriction placed by the central bank on the amount of FX you can access as a company. So our solution is to basically give them access to instant liquidity through stablecoins. So our services, we would basically take the cash from the company locally, then give them stablecoin, and they would be able to either send those stablecoin abroad, either in USD or in Euro, and then cash out from one of our partner abroad. So we're basically giving them the tools to be able to work with importers and people abroad through our services. So yeah, I'll say it's pretty much the same as Ruth, but in our case, we're more focused on working with businesses. As an example, for example, in Burkina here, we're working with a mining company. They're using our services to basically send back the profits they make locally here in Burkina. So yeah, that's one of the example of people we serve currently.
It's awesome. And one theme that Charles, you briefly touched on this is, kind of the interoperability and how connected a lot of these pieces are. And I know this just from talking to you all regularly, like there's high connectivity, right? So you're building your business, but you also plugged into this richer ecosystem. And there's a lot of connectivity in terms of people building different components of the stack, right? That both drive value maybe for different groups or providing different features, right? If you think about sort of the holistic product. And I think to me, that's when I think about the power of Web3, that's also one of the key things that stands out. And while there's similarities, right, it's things that, you know, fit together and actually provide an experience that can far exceed what can be offered in sort of traditional solutions. So I want to be mindful of time, and I know I'm sure a lot of people are now kind of, you know, sort of you know, close to their screens and are up in their seats, because this is maybe new, and they're excited to see, hey, wow, this is technology actually has an impact on the ground, right? This is like what we've all been you know, looking for, and we've heard this in the beginning a little bit. Some of you shared some of the metrics, right? Like seeing pretty rapid growth, in some cases, you know, already serving tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, are impacting people. And maybe as my last question, both knowing that there's people on at this conference, right, who are investors or who are looking to kind of get more involved with Africa, with the space, kind of a twofold question here. One, what is the road to 1 billion users? And maybe we can break it down and say, hey, you know, how do we get to 1 million? How do we get to, you know, 10 million and so on? But then also, what are you looking for, you know, in sort of this broader community, and maybe people that are not spending already their time day to day in this market, and what are ways for people to get involved, or, you know, even more broadly, kind of talking a little bit about sort of, your growth plans. And maybe this time I'll switch it up a little bit, and we'll start with Serge. You always going last, so we'll have you go first.
Yeah, sorry, I want to go first so I could run. Apologies about that. Yeah, so for us, what we've seen, like I said, there's lots and lots of adoption across Africa, right? But we still have a couple of people, like you said, the next 10 million users, the next 1 billion users, right? How do we onboard them onto Web3? So what we are doing is that we realize that, look, it doesn't really matter how I send or receive money, right? I could be doing that over Swift network, or I could be doing that over stablecoin. So sometimes people don't want to know first, but after a while, then you start introducing them to the technology, and you then you're able to give them some incentives. You're able to usher them into the economy by teaching them, or by doing a bit of some kind of education, right? So that's why for us, we kind of have like our app has like the whole Web3 at the back, fintech in the front kind of outlook, right? But we still let you fund your wallet with CUSD, USDC, USDT as a way for you to enter into the whole Web3 ecosystem, or even convert on the app. But if you can't do that, it's no problem. Just come with your usual fiat and we'll get the rest of the job done. But as time goes on, definitely I know we would start telling users to, hey, have you tried this, or can you do this on your own? Or if you do this, you're going to get this token, and this token is what this. So that's the approach we are taking right now, and I think that approach is really working. So far we have over 100,000 users and growing, and I'm really hopeful that, like Rene said, that's going to scale to the next 10 million, 20 million, then 1 billion users, right?
Awesome. Congrats. Yeah, who wants to go next? Feel free to. We can switch up the order a little bit. Yeah. Serge, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So in our case, I'll say that the next billion users will be onboarded through communities. So for example, in traditional mobile money, you have like agents that are providing services to the different users of the mobile money service, the agents that Charles was talking about recently. So in our case, for example, we're trying to do a pilot where we recruit merchants that would serve as on and off ramps for our services. So basically they would do like promotions for the service, earn fees on this, and also they would be able to give trust to the users. So basically like act as a front for like the system itself. So I think like the next billion users will come through communities and trust-based systems, just like how mobile money grows throughout Africa. And yeah, so in our case, we're trying to build that through the mobile wallet we're launching for merchants. And besides that, we're currently onboarding a lot of businesses to our platform. So we're still looking for people interested in payment processing on and off ramp across Francophone Africa specifically, because that's the region we're operating in currently. So yeah, that's my opinion.
That's awesome. Yeah, maybe Jessica, I know maybe as a transition, you also Impact Markets approach has been very community based, and yeah, what's your take? What's the road to 1 billion users?
Yes, for us, pretty simple. Is just to focus on what people need, right? I think adoption is not complicated when you build tools that are needed, and in our case, again, we're building tools for people that never had access to, and they understand the opportunity behind it and what can it do to them. So I would say for us, or to reach the billion into Web3 will be to keep building applications that are useful to people, like providing financial services like we've been doing, but keeping it simple through like stablecoin. I think we all agree here. On how easy it makes for especially the type of population we are targeting. So it comes down to a lot of education, but I think, when you have a stable coin that is pegged to dollars or any currency that people are very familiar to, make it very easy to implement something within a community. And again, yes, Serge mentioned and you mentioned, we're taking community approach, so targeting, community leader, people that have some sort of authority, explaining how it works. And I think it's very impactful within the community. But yeah, I would say just taking into consideration the current challenge and building according to it, rather than building things that are not necessary. So yeah, pretty simple.
Yeah, it's great advice also for people that are building in the space. It's great. Charles.
Yeah, well, I would echo what Jessica and Serge said. Maybe to build off that a little bit. There are tens of millions of micro retailers across the African continent, right? And like what I said earlier on, 98% of commerce flows through these folks. And I think the next 5 to 10 years of adoption will predominantly flow through these brick and mortar retailers, right? Because like when we're in the height of the bull market, everyone's writing DYOR, do your own research. But that's not how things work in Africa. It's not DYOR. It's explain to me. Show me how this works. Demonstrate to me how this works. Build trust, right? And have a physical touch point, which I can totally understand. Like, if the ATM was being rolled out for the first time, I would only use ATMs attached to banks, and I would only use them when the bank was open, so that if the ATM didn't work, I could go inside and say, hey, I put my PIN in and it said it gave me money, but I didn't get any cash. What's going on? That would be particularly true if I was going to withdraw all the savings that I had and absolutely desperately depended on that money being in my hand. And so I think that physical proximity and the link to trust and the link to kind of market education and onboarding is going to be super key. And then, the other thing is that in most markets in Africa, even in Kenya, where you've got more Safaricom accounts than you do adults, cash is still king, right? The number one use case for M-Pesa is withdrawing to cash. And that's even more true in other markets outside of Kenya. So I think, we need to build solutions that take that into account. And make sure that, whatever applications we're building are compatible with cash, the distribution channels are compatible with cash, et cetera. And then maybe kind of in addition to that, there's a bunch of really cool companies that are thinking through this problem, particularly Kotani Pay, of how do you serve folks who don't have a smartphone yet? And I think that maybe this is something that over time will become less of a challenge. But today it's a huge constraint to adoption, especially for everyday folks, right? And even for people, interestingly, the GSMA put a report out showing the gap between the number of people who own smartphones and the number of people who have data and internet access. And it's massive. It's something like 50% of people who own a smartphone don't have internet access because data is too expensive. It's not prioritized. So, when we're thinking about kind of meeting people where they are, explaining to them, prioritizing the realities of cash, we also need to think about access to technology and how that might limit some decisions in terms of go-to-market and UX that we make. And I think kind of stringing all of those pieces together as a community, all the people on this call, we're well positioned to solve different parts of the complete problem cohesively. And that, to what Rene was saying, I think is so important and so different about Web3 versus Web2, where it's like, we don't each need to build every single piece of this. We just know that somebody else has got this covered so that it's interoperable. And then the business, the consumer gets to get that value and have that problem solved in a comprehensive way.
Fantastic. I know we're up at time here, but just as like a final question, and this is something that so at the foundation, we do a lot of different things, including grants for public goods infrastructure for the community, but we also talk to investors in the space a lot. And what I've seen of especially the last year, has been just a really significant increase in Africa and in solutions being built in Africa. And I maybe want to put you on the spot a little bit. Don't have to answer, but for investors listening, are you guys raising right now? And maybe as a just kind of a general closing question statement, how can people learn more about what you're doing or get in touch with you all? Jessica, you want to go first?
Okay, let's do this. Yes, definitely. I think support can come in different way. Can come from investment, can come from, in our case, we mentioned microcredit, so we're launching microcredit. We're obviously looking for lenders. Lenders is something that is, very tricky, especially when you launch to the type of market that we're lending to. This is new technology. It's very innovative. So we, kind of understand the constraint of that. But yeah, I think there is different ways that one could get involved in impact markets according to their expectation. Could be the token that is directly linked to lifting people out of extreme poverty. Could be a bit less risky or less philanthropic way, providing lending capabilities to have this type of stories where you have women becoming self-made entrepreneur and able to sustain themselves financially. It could be in many ways. We're always looking to, for people to support the cause. But definitely anyone can either reach out to me. We'll be happy to, share a bit more about impact markets, or can find on our website, impactmarkets.com. So yes, thank you for the question, Rene.
Awesome. Charles, do you want to go next?
Sure. In terms of finding out more, you can just Google Nuzo coin. That's, we found that's just the easiest way to onboard folks. We had QR codes, we had WhatsApp sharing and all that stuff. Just Google Nuzo and you'll find some stuff on us. In terms of the investment piece, yeah, again, I would kind of echo Jessica. There's a lot of ways to get involved. I think participating in LP pools for real world asset lending is huge. There's a few partners who we're working with in this space, and getting more kind of cash into the system, especially to these kind of micro retailers, micro entrepreneurs, is critical. And then I think maybe for global VCs or maybe VCs who've been looking at Asia, just realize that there are some parallels. There's also a lot of differences, right? Businesses that you're going to be investing in have physical assets. right? They have delivery trucks. They're going to be moving physical stock around, and they're going to have to deal with constraints that are unique to the operating environment, right? Like bad roads and regulatory challenges. So you really have to kind of take the long-term view with where things could go, and looking at the demographics and looking at the trajectory of economic growth and the historical kind of underinvestment in infrastructure that's now being partially compensated for with some of these technologies. Have vision with the slope of that curve, but understand that in order to get there, you need to back operators who are comfortable getting their hands dirty, and maybe not the same type of operators that exactly pattern match to, Silicon Valley companies. So I think spending time on the ground and having an open mind is really important.
That's great. Serge.
Yeah, so in our case, there's a lot of ways to support us. First, like I was saying previously, we're looking for businesses to sign up to our platform so they can try our payment processing capabilities. You can find us at Dunia.Africa. On the investment piece, we're also raising an extension of our seed round. So any investor can also reach out to me on LinkedIn or through our contact page on our website. Yeah.
Beautiful. And Ruth just messaged me. She had to board her plane, but we're excited she was still able to join this session. And bitmama.com for more information on Bitmama. But thank you all so much for joining. Thanks for sharing some stories of how you're today already providing value to people, whether it's through micro loans, micro payments, cross-border payments, B2B payments, commerce, right? I mean, it's really, I think we've touched on a wide range of topics, and also actually looked at a bunch of different geographies. I think this is another call out just from having spent time on the continent. Africa is not a country. It's a massive continent, and not even just at a country level, but at a community level, there are differences. And so, definitely, I think we only really scratched the surface with this session, but hopefully folks will, get some of the excitement and dig deeper and spend time, because this is really where I think we see the future for this technology providing a lot of value to a lot of people. So with that, thanks to my fellow panelists for joining. Thanks to SCB 10X for hosting this fabulous event yet again. And see you all soon.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, bye.